God could have done it in one day, one plague, one moment. Pharaoh would have released Israel, and the entire nation would have walked free. But instead, God sent 10 plagues, 10 separate judgments, 10 chances, 10 demonstrations of power spanning months, and most people missed the reason why. It wasn't cruelty, it wasn't showmanship, it was justice, it was mercy, and it was the most important lesson about God's character ever written. But first, you need to understand Pharaoh. He wasn't just a stubborn dictator, he was a man raised to believe he was a god himself. Pharaohs were worshipped as divine incarnations. Pharaoh believed he was the bridge between the Egyptian gods and the people. He had absolute power, absolute authority. He had never been challenged successfully. He had never seen a power greater than his own. So when Moses and Aaron showed up saying, "Let my people go," Pharaoh wasn't just being asked to release slaves. He was being asked to admit that his authority, his divinity, his entire worldview was subject to someone greater. That's not just a political request. That's an existential threat to everything Pharaoh believed about himself. And that's why he couldn't simply say yes. His identity was at stake. Let me set the scene. Moses and Aaron stand before Pharaoh. They ask him to let the people go. Pharaoh's response is simple. "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go." He doesn't know the Lord. That's the problem, and that's the key to understanding everything that follows. Pharaoh isn't just a political obstacle. He's a man who has never encountered the true God. He's surrounded by Egyptian gods, sun gods, river gods, frog gods, locust gods. He's confident in his power. He's confident in his position. He's confident that whatever this Hebrew God is, it's not stronger than Egypt, and he's wrong. To understand the 10 plagues, you need to understand Egyptian religion. The Egyptians didn't just worship gods casually. Their entire civilization was built on a religious foundation. Every aspect of Egyptian life was connected to their gods. Ra, the sun god, was the most powerful. He brought light and life to Egypt. Osiris was the god of the Nile River, the literal source of Egypt's survival. Without the Nile's annual flooding, Egypt would be desert. So Osiris wasn't just worshipped, Osiris was survival. Hathor was the cow goddess, connected to fertility and wealth. Sekhmet was the plague goddess, the one who brought disease and suffering. Khepri was represented by the scarab beetle and symbolized transformation and renewal. Heket was the frog goddess of fertility. The Egyptians believed these gods were real. They believed these gods protected them. They believed as long as they honored these gods, Egypt would remain powerful and prosperous. So when God begins sending plagues, he's not just causing random problems. He's directly challenging every god Egypt believed in. He's saying, "Your gods are powerless before me. Your entire religious system, the foundation of your civilization, is subject to my authority." So God sends the first plague, blood. The Nile River turns to blood. Exodus 7:19-20. It's a direct attack on Osiris, the Egyptian god of the Nile. The very source of Egypt's prosperity becomes a curse. The fish die. The water stinks. It's unbearable. And Pharaoh's response? He hardens his heart and walks away. This is the pattern that repeats. Plague after plague, judgment after judgment. And each time, Pharaoh has a choice. Release the people or face the next plague. But why 10? Why not 1? Here's what most people miss. Each plague isn't just a punishment. Each plague is a revelation. Each plague is God systematically dismantling every false god the Egyptians trusted in. Every plague is showing Pharaoh and all of Egypt. This God is greater than everything you believe in. The second plague, frogs. They covered the land. This attacks Heket, the frog goddess of fertility. The Egyptians worshipped frogs as symbols of life and abundance. Now they're a plague, a curse. The third plague, lice, small but everywhere, unclean. This attacks Geb, the earth god. The very dust of the earth becomes a weapon. The fourth plague, flies, swarms of them, destruction everywhere. This attacks Khepri, the god represented by the scarab beetle. The fifth plague, disease on livestock. Egypt's wealth is in their animals. Their power depends on horses and cattle for military and agriculture, and God destroys it. This attacks Hathor, the cow goddess. The sixth plague, boils, festering sores on the skin of every Egyptian. This attacks Sekhmet, the plague goddess herself. Even the god of plagues cannot protect them from this god. The seventh plague, hail, massive hailstones destroying crops, animals, and people. This attacks Nut, the sky goddess. The heavens themselves wage war against Egypt. The eighth plague, locusts, consuming everything the hail didn't destroy. This attacks Senebe, the locust god. The very creature they feared becomes the instrument of their devastation. The ninth plague, darkness. 3 days of complete darkness, no light, no sun. This is a direct assault on Ra, the sun god, the most powerful god in the Egyptian pantheon, and he's powerless. The darkness is so thick you can feel it. And after each plague, Pharaoh says he'll let the people go. And after each plague, he changes his mind. But here's the theological depth that changes everything. God doesn't just send random punishments. He's systematically revealing something. He's showing Egypt. Every god you trust is subject to my authority. Every power you believe in, I control. Every system you've built your life on, I can dismantle in a moment. And why does this matter? Because Pharaoh needs to know. Egypt needs to know. And Israel needs to know. Israel had lived in Egypt for 400 years. Some of them had probably started to believe in Egyptian gods too. They'd been enslaved so long they might have forgotten who their God was. But through these 10 plagues, God isn't just freeing them politically, He's freeing them spiritually. He's saying to all of them, I am the God, not Osiris, not Ra, not any of these false gods. Me. But there's something else happening too. God is showing mercy. After each plague, He gives Pharaoh a choice. Release the people and the plagues stop. It's not inevitable. It's not predetermined. Pharaoh could end this at any point. In Exodus 9:15-16, God tells Moses, For now I could stretch out my hand and strike you and your people with a plague that would wipe you off the earth. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. God could destroy Egypt in one moment, but He doesn't. He gives Pharaoh 10 opportunities to choose differently. He shows Pharaoh his power gradually, systematically, undeniably. He's not just punishing. He's trying to change a man's heart. The 10th plague comes only when every other option has been exhausted. The death of the firstborn. Every family in Egypt loses their firstborn son. It's devastating. It's final. It's the consequence of refusing to listen to 10 prior warnings. But even this plague contains mercy. God provides a way of escape. He tells Israel to mark their doorposts with lamb's blood. The angel of death will pass over those homes. It's the birth of Passover, a way out, a way to be saved. Even in judgment, God offers redemption. And finally, Pharaoh releases them. So why 10 plagues? Why not one? Because one plague might have been dismissed as coincidence. One plague might have been reframed as bad luck. One plague might not have been enough to overcome the hardness of a human heart that has decided not to listen. But 10 plagues? 10 systematic revelations? That changes everything. That shows a pattern. That demonstrates undeniable power. That makes a choice clear. You can keep resisting or you can surrender. And here's what this means for you today. How many times has God shown you something? How many times has He given you a sign, a warning, a gentle nudge in a direction? And how many times have you kept walking forward, ignoring what He was trying to tell you? The 10 plagues teach us something profound about God's patience. He doesn't destroy on a whim. He doesn't punish without warning. He shows us repeatedly what He's asking of us. He gives us multiple opportunities to change course. He reveals His power not to terrify, but to convince. And He does this because He wants our hearts, not our obedience out of fear alone, but our willingness to trust Him, our choice to believe that He knows better than we do. Maybe you're in a season where God is trying to get your attention. Maybe He sent one sign. Maybe He sent several. Maybe you're noticing patterns, situations repeating, warnings appearing, gentle nudges becoming harder to ignore. The 10 plagues aren't just ancient history. They're a template for how God works. He's patient. He's merciful. He gives chances. But He also expects a response. The final plague, the death of the firstborn, wasn't inevitable. It came only because Pharaoh, after 10 revelations, after 10 chances, still chose to harden his heart. But for those who chose to trust God, who marked their doorposts with blood, who believed that God would do what He said, for them there was a way of escape. There was salvation. And that's the God the 10 plagues reveal. Not a capricious deity punishing randomly, a God who shows His power, gives multiple chances, and offers a way of salvation to all who will trust Him. A God who would rather you choose Him willingly than be forced into submission. A God patient enough to send 10 plagues instead of 1. A God merciful enough to mark a way of escape even in judgment. The question isn't why did God send 10 plagues? The question is, what plagues has God sent into your life? What warnings have you received, and what will you do with them?